Okay, today's lesson we're going to concentrate on presentation methods. There are a huge amount of resources for presenting your work. Okay. At the moment you're going to be working on portfolios, so your work is going to go into a flip file, and preferably, if you can, get a second flip file for your finished pieces. Okay, or an alternative book that you're going to present as a final portfolio. So, we wouldn't use foam board, but foam board is good for presenting work if you're going to display it onto boards. And that's available in resources. It's light, the only thing, it's unforgivable. If you bang that, that's it. You don't have a square anymore, and you cannot straighten it again. So we have to think about, is it suitable for what we're going to do? And that's why it would fit in a flip file, but we wouldn't use it. Don't use photocopier paper for presenting your work. Okay, it's too thin and it's just not going to present it. You put anything on there and it will start to move about. You can get closer with cartridge paper, which is heavier, and paper is weighed in what's called milligrams, and it's on per unit area. This, which is normal photocopier paper, is down as 80 milligrams. This one, it's a bit heavier, it's about 170 milligrams. The photo paper is about 190, so it's measured in weight, and it's down as mg. You've got mount board. Right? The thing about mount board is it's quite unforgiving. You bend it, which it'll bend quite easy, and your images start to pop off. All right? We'll talk about adhesive methods during today's presentation. But we have to think about it. Also, if you look there, it's called black mount board, but for those of you who do art, black is virtually impossible to get. It's going to be a different shade, so it's going to sometimes clash, sometimes work with your work. So we have to think about it before we present it. Sometimes you can reverse it. Okay, so sometimes it's going to be completely, but it's, clear on the back. Sometimes it'll have writing, but it's not white. There is a difference in that. And the same for those of you who do art. White is very difficult to get. Not as difficult as black. You can get black foam board for your final presentation methods as well, which is quite good. Again, it's not fully black. Sizes, you can go easily up to A2, which our photo inkjet printers can print up to A2, so you can get foam board, which means it goes right to the edge. You can get A3 and A4, and after that you're going to have to cut your own. So, looking at how we can present our cyanotypes in an A3 format. We've got option 1, which is a off-white piece of card, which is a kind of a semi-gloss to it, and we've got masking tape. Okay. Now I think you might have heard my tone of voice, masking tape. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So if we look at that, we can see that masking tape it's a bit forgiving. You can move it, it's not going to be stuck down forever, but it will dry up. The glue in that, so the adhesive in the masking tape, will dry up at some point and probably fall off. Overnight, it's already started to come away from here. So this was only done less than 24 hours ago. It will hold stuff to the page, and sometimes it's the effect that you're looking for, but show me before you choose it as your final presentation method, because it's not the best. Next one, an alternative colour card. So we've got brown, and we've got directly mounted onto it. We can see that because it's slightly coming away on the corners. Right. The papers that you have made are not perfectly flat. They've got a bit of movement to them because they've been covered in chemistry, they've been dunked into water, they've been bleached, and then they've been washed and just dried on newspaper. So if we look at it, we can see that it's slightly off the page. The colour, does it match, does it work? And this is where we start coming into this. We start to think about the VE, the viewer's experience. How does the viewer feel when they look at your work? Are they distracted by the materials you've used? So you need to start asking yourself some questions. Think about quality over quantity. For your final presentation Alright, your final pieces, it's about the quality of your cyanotype. What works well, what's successful. Do not just put loads in because they're okay. Leave them into your other flip file, right? Your coursework portfolio, leave them in there as demonstrations, as samples. Write about them in your ranking order of your cyanotypes. But for final pieces, they'll be mounted separately and presented in your portfolio of final pieces. So always think quality over quantity. So we've got that one there. It's a presentation method. It's not suitable. For some of you, the brown might work. Maybe you've already used brown paper. Directly onto mount board. Right, so we've got it direct onto the darker side of the mount board. Now with this, if we notice, it's not jumping off. Right. Previously, the one that popped off was with Pritt Stick. This one has been done with double-sided sticky tape. And always put a line of double-sided sticky tape on the back through the middle at a diagonal. And that will stop it from moving off the page. So it's all the way around the edge, and then one through the middle. Maybe two if you want, but don't put too much in, and it doesn't pop off. We still have the problem where it's raised off the page slightly, so you can just about see the edges coming up. It works, it's neat, it'll be in a portfolio, and it'll stay there. Then we start thinking about using window mounts. Benefit of window mounts is that it seals off the edge of the image, so there's none of it lifting off the edge of the page. You have to be careful with thinking about the colour of the window mount. So window mounts, where do you get them? You can make your own. You'll need a steel rule, which I think are in your studio kits, and a blade. Alright, so a Stanley knife is better than just an artist blade. You need practice for doing it. It's a thick cardboard, right? And you have to cut it in straight lines. And that's why you only use a steel ruler to cut window mounts out. Otherwise you'll dig into the ruler with the blade. It also gives you the chance to kind of bring it off the page, more like an exhibition piece. They're available if you want to buy them. You can get them in places like Hobbycraft. You can get them in, which are quite expensive. Please don't sue me, Hobbycraft. But you are. The Range do them, so you got a Range. And sometimes going into framers' shops, they might have a load of them for offcuts, or ones that they've got left over. So just think about it. But you can make them yourself out of mount board. But then think about the backing card that you're going to use as well. So it leads on to, when we talk about cutting them out, is it the best that you can do? And I put the word honesty there. Is it the best you can do? Or are you just leaving it in with a bit tuck out of the corner, or a bit that's just curved line? Is that the best? Or is it a case of realizing and refining your work and think, actually no, I've made a mistake, I need to improve this. You've got an issue with, let's say, this one. If we look at it, we've got an off-white going on to an alternative off-white. Sometimes it clashes, sometimes it works okay. And with this one also, you've got, issues with the cutting of the edge here. Double-sided tape, so it will, because this is more rigid than a print, if you keep bending it, it will pull it back, but it generally works quite well, and it'll stay on there for the duration of the year. You can change the sizes of your prints. Alright, they don't all have to stay A4, you can make them different sizes. Here we look at using double window mounts with our images underneath, and keeping the borders the same the whole way around. I would suggest, if you're making your own window mounts, I wouldn't put two of them on the same page, because it would be very difficult to get them the exact same. Have you selected the appropriate materials and shown alternatives? So maybe just lay them out like this on a couple of different pieces of paper, different colour card, photograph it, put it into your portfolio and show the examiner your process of selecting and refining your ideas. So you've laid it down with masking tape, right, and you said, no, I'm not going to use this. It is a form of presentation, but I'm not going to use it. I've left it on white card, but it doesn't suit it, or I've left it on cream card. and it doesn't suit it. So just quick photographs and then bring them into Photoshop for your presentation. So we got, again, more window mounts. So this is looking at the two different types of black, which they work okay. You could try to take it off before you glue it down, put it onto a white mount board and see how that works. We got it's a smoother one, and again, these are available in shops. You don't have to get them, these are just ideas. When you're making your own window mount, that's what the back of it will look like. So you stuck it on there, and then I've cut out the hole itself. Make sure you don't leave where you've marked it off with a ruler and a pencil. Make sure you don't leave those marks on there. They're marks that get cut out. But it does work. It is a cheap form of doing it, but it saves it. It looks like it's framed, and it saves it lifting off the page. Masking tape will stick down, might dry out after a while, but you could maybe use sellotape. Always make the hole for the window mount smaller than the original image. Otherwise, when you put it on there, it'll just fall through. So this picture is bigger than the hole on this side. I talked earlier about the idea of doing alternative sizes. You could square them off. You don't have to use the full cyanotype. You could put it that way, it could go that way. It doesn't really matter with these prints. But think about how you want it presented. This is just A3 card. So it's about 210 milligrams. So it is looser, which is fine for your portfolios. Because these are going to be staying in your portfolios. And the idea of keeping it that you can see light shining through it. So you've got the window mount there. You could have it that you can look through it. So for those of you who use the backlit paper, this is so that the light can shine through and you get an alternative effect. If you are doing that, you need to say to the examiner, please hold up to the light for viewing. So window mount has been cut out and then it's just mounted, but it then becomes a standalone piece if you want it. Key things, don't use PVA glue. PVA glue is the gloopy stuff that will wet your print and it won't be flat anymore, and it will cause effects on the paper like ripples. Try and avoid Pritt stick if you're using mount board, because it'll just pop off like that photograph. Double-sided tape in your kits, so use that whereas you can, and make sure you spend a bit of time taking your time with presenting it. You're not rushing it. These are things that you can do. If you're cutting with a Stanley knife, please use cutting mats in the classroom, so they're green or grey cutting mats. It's rubber and it'll help it go along, and make sure that you're using a steel ruler, not anything else. Okay, for trimming down, use your paper trimmers in your studio kits or the guillotines in the classrooms for trimming down the paper or the cyanotypes rather than the freehand scissors, alright, because it doesn't work as well. It's about trying to create this professional standard and linking back to the idea of the viewer's experience. Does the viewer enjoy looking at your work because it's presented neatly and works well, or is it just stuck onto a page with no relevance? Have we selected the right materials? Okay, thank you.